What if the owl never came? No parchment, no wax seal, not even a single feather. When the clock struck midnight on Harry's 11th birthday, that fateful day that should have changed everything, he stayed trapped in that suffocating cupboard under the Privet Drive stairs. No Hogwarts, no magic wand, no hope. Just the musty smell of old shoes and the dull throb of a life unlived. Today, we're going to follow that bleak, unsettling timeline. Because without his letter, Harry Potter isn't the chosen one, is he? He's a ticking time bomb of raw, accidental magic, simmering just beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary life. And the wizarding world? It has no idea it's already losing a war it doesn't even know has truly begun. It's a world utterly blind to the storm gathering in its midst, a storm that could have been its salvation. Imagine Vernon Dursley's profound, almost dizzying relief. No letters pouring through the letterbox like a magical flood. No frantic owls tapping at the windows. No unsightly droppings on the meticulously manicured lawn. Harry's 11th birthday passes just like any other Tuesday. Cold, watery soup for dinner, a locked cupboard for a bedroom, and the ever-present sneering triumph of Dudley's smirk. He eats the pathetic slice of leftover cake, likely stale, left on the doorstep. A small, almost accidental act of kindness. Mrs. Figg, the peculiar cat-loving neighbor who usually casts a watchful eye, is away at her cousin's, blissfully unaware of the profound shift in the universe, and so doesn't babysit this week. The first crack of wizarding interference, the very first tremor of destiny, never arrives. Far away in the cluttered ancient kitchen at Grimmauld Place, Albus Dumbledore's monitoring charms, intricate and delicate, sit undisturbed on a dusty shelf, still sealed in a small silver snuff box. A forgotten precaution. He'd decided, with a heavy heart, that the blood wards were sufficient, that any direct intervention would only draw unwanted attention to the boy. He believed Harry was safe, tucked away, protected by the very relatives who were slowly crushing his spirit. Meanwhile, the giant, gentle Rubeus Hagrid, who should have been bursting through the Dursleys' door, is reassigned. Instead of embarking on a vital rescue mission, he spends his time ferrying nervous first years across the serene Black Lake to Hogwarts, his enormous frame dwarfing the small boats. His beloved motorbike, a gift from Sirius Black, stays gathering cobwebs in the shed, its engine cold and silent. No letter yet translates in Dumbledore's mind to no rescue mission required. A simple miscalculation, an oversight born of good intentions that will have catastrophic consequences. For Harry, it's just another year of endless, back-breaking chores, punctuated by the casual, soul-crushing neglect he's grown accustomed to. The cupboard door, his only refuge and his prison, is locked from the outside every night. The rusty bars on his tiny window remain firmly in place. At night, he sometimes hears the house hum, a low, resonant vibration that seems to answer his own silent questions, his own burgeoning, confused power. He assumes it's the old boiler rattling through the pipes. The wizarding world, in its vast, self-contained ignorance, assumes he's safe, oblivious, and protected in the Muggle world, the ancient blood protections intact and doing their work. Both assumptions, tragically, will cost them dearly. They are building a future on sand. Because no one comes, because no one even knows to look, Harry remains small, perpetually underfed, and practically invisible. He's a ghost haunting the edges of his own life, nameless on official forms, a forgotten statistic. The teachers at Stonewall Primary, overwhelmed and underpaid, genuinely forget he exists, his quiet presence easily overlooked, his absence rarely noticed. Dudley's hulking gang still chase him, their taunts echoing in his ears, their fists a constant threat. And when the adrenaline spikes, when fear and anger coil in his gut, odd things still happen. A pane of glass in the school library vanishes, only to reappear moments later, perfectly intact, baffling everyone. A teacher's neatly coiffed hair turns a vibrant, shocking green during a particularly frustrating lesson. But no one at the school ever says magic. How could they? They call it a prank, a childish trick, or simply Harry being Harry. And Harry, as always, gets detention. Detention isn't just a punishment anymore, it's a way of life. Scrubbing greasy pans until his fingers are raw, weeding the Dursleys' immaculate garden until his back aches, sometimes even sleeping behind the wheelie bin in the garden shed when the cupboard feels too small, too suffocating. He learns 3 harsh, undeniable truths. Adults, particularly the ones in charge, often don't notice what's truly important. Children, especially cruel ones like Dudley and his cronies, can be unbelievably vicious. And sometimes, just sometimes, when he's pushed to the absolute breaking point, when his anger flares like a wildfire, the world bends to his will. Objects move, lights flicker, small, impossible things occur. He doesn't understand it, but he feels the power, a wild, untamed thing stirring within him. It's a terrifying, exhilarating secret, a dark comfort in his desolate existence. Without the relentless, terrifying onslaught of Hogwarts letters, without the constant threat of a world they despised invading their perfectly normal lives, Vernon never has to uproot his family to a storm-battered hut on a rock in the middle of nowhere. The Dursleys' deep-seated fear of magic remains a low, manageable hum, a constant undercurrent of unease, rather than a full-blown emergency. Their carefully constructed facade of normalcy never cracks. Harry's cracked, taped-up glasses remain his only pair, his wardrobe a collection of oversized, threadbare hand-me-downs from Dudley, smelling faintly of mothballs and stale sweat. Petunia, in this timeline, never has to confront the painful, searing ghost of her sister Lily, reflected in Harry's bright green eyes. She never has to face the magical world again, never has to acknowledge the deep, festering jealousy and regret that lies buried within her. The cupboard under the stairs, that cramped, dark space, becomes Harry's permanent bedroom, his only sanctuary for years. It's not until Harry turns 13, a gangly, quiet teenager, that Vernon, in a rare moment of what he considers magnanimity, upgrades Harry's sleeping arrangements. Not to a proper bedroom, of course, but to Dudley's second-best bedroom, specifically to make space for a new, imposing treadmill. Harry is relegated to sleeping on the floor beside the whirring machine, a thin, worn blanket, his only comfort. And the lock? Oh, the lock is at it again, a sturdy metallic click every night. Vernon likes the symbolism, the tangible control it represents. For Harry, it's just another reminder that he's unwanted, an outsider even in his own home, a prisoner in plain sight. Now, let's pause for a moment, shall we? Let's take a breath and tally the truly terrifying implications of what's unfolding here. Canon, the story we all know and love, tells us that accidental magic, this raw, untrained power, peaks around puberty. Harry's burgeoning anger, his profound sense of injustice and isolation, isn't just a match held to a dry kindling, it's a match held to a gas leak. In the original timeline, Hagrid's arrival, his booming voice and comforting presence, calmed Harry's fears, validated his existence, and began to channel his immense power. But here, Without that intervention, Harry has only fear, only rage, only a desperate, uncomprehending need for an outlet. Picture this. The old Dursley boiler, a temperamental beast at the best of times, is due for its annual inspection. The technician, a gruff, condescending man with a perpetually furrowed brow, is rude to Petunia, dismissing her concerns with a wave of his greasy hand. Harry, hunched and silent in his cupboard, hears the man's sneering words, feels the insult land not just on his aunt, but on the memory of his dead parents, on everything he secretly holds dear. The world tilts. A surge of uncontrolled, furious energy erupts from him. The boiler, with a deafening bang, explodes. Petunia, standing too close, screams as she loses her meticulously plucked eyebrows in a flash of heat. The technician, bewildered and terrified, blames faulty valves, a freak accident. He scurries away, muttering about insurance claims. The Ministry of Magic, in its distant, bureaucratic wisdom, never registers the surge. How could they? Harry doesn't yet have a trace on him, no official magical signature to detect. He's off the grid, an anomaly. The Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes, usually so vigilant, remains blissfully unaware. The Ministry, you see, is completely blindfolded, stumbling headlong toward a cliff edge, utterly oblivious to the powerful destructive force growing unchecked in their own backyard. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a monumental, potentially fatal, intelligence failure. Back at Hogwarts, the Great Hall hums with the excited chatter of new students. Albus Dumbledore, serene and wise, waits patiently at the high table. His eyes, however, keep drifting to an empty space, a single vacant seat marked Potter beside the timid red-haired boy who looks so lost. It's a silent, nagging void. Professor McGonagall, her lips pursed with a familiar worry, reports quietly that the letters were indeed delivered by hand to the Dursleys. No response. A flat refusal. She recommends, with a hint of urgency in her voice, sending someone, anyone, to investigate. But Dumbledore, ever the strategist, ever the believer in his own carefully laid plans, calculates differently. He insists the blood wards are active, that Harry is safer hidden away with his Muggle relatives than he would be within the ancient, but potentially compromised, walls of a castle crawling with spies and lingering dark magic. He postpones retrieval, just for a little while. One more year, he thinks, convincing himself it's for the best. 1 year stretches into 2, then 3. The concept of the Goblet of Fire, a dangerous but thrilling inter-school competition, comes and goes from the Ministry's agenda. Eventually, the Triwizard Tournament is announced, a grand spectacle designed to foster international magical cooperation. Dumbledore still believes Harry Potter is hidden, untraceable, protected under those wretched stairs. He still believes in the power of those wards. He has no idea, not the slightest inkling, that Harry is locked in a dark room. His only companions, the shards of broken glass he's learned to levitate, making them float and dance like macabre fireflies in the gloom, whispering secrets to them. He doesn't know that his chosen instrument of destiny is slowly, terrifyingly, becoming something else entirely. Ron Weasley still boards the Hogwarts Express, his pockets stuffed with sweets, his heart pounding with excitement. But he never meets the shy, skinny boy with the round glasses and the lightning scar. His compartment, instead of being filled with the lively banter of 3 new friends, is quieter, perhaps shared with other first years, or maybe just his brothers. Neville Longbottom, without Harry's quiet strength and eventual fame to overshadow him, becomes the true Gryffindor underdog, finding his own voice and courage earlier. He's the one who stands up to Malfoy, his wobbly defiance earning him respect. Seamus Finnegan and Dean Thomas, instead of forming a secondary pair, tag along with Neville, creating a different kind of camaraderie. The vital trio slot, that perfect symbiotic balance, is missing its linchpin. Without Harry, Hermione Granger, brilliant and eager, spends her first term hiding in the vast, echoing library, finding solace only in books. She's bullied, not by Slytherins, but by a clique of unnamed Ravenclaw girls who, intimidated by her intelligence, cruelly call her teacher's creature. She cries, heartbroken and alone, in a dusty, forgotten bathroom. But no troll appears because Professor Quirrell, undisturbed by Harry's presence and lack of interference, never unleashes it. Ron and Hermione don't bond over saving each other from a monstrous threat. Instead, they graduate as mere acquaintances, polite but distant, never becoming the soulmates we know. The absence of Harry's reckless courage, his innate ability to draw people together, deprives Hogwarts of its true gravitational center. The school feels colder, more impersonal, like an ancient castle without a beating heart, its magic diminished, its spirit muted. Without Harry's arrival at Hogwarts, Professor Quirrell still teaches defense against the dark arts, his turban a familiar, if slightly unsettling, sight. But he never finds the Philosopher's Stone. Dumbledore, ever cautious, ever suspicious, simply moves it to an even more secure location, sensing a potential thief, a lingering malevolence. Voldemort's wraith, a spectral, desperate entity, retreats into the shadowy forests of Eastern Europe, weaker still, but infinitely more patient. His plans shift. The Cursed Diary, a dark fragment of Voldemort's soul, remains tucked away in Lucius Malfoy's ornate drawer at Malfoy Manor, waiting. But Ginny Weasley, without Harry's fame to capture her young imagination, never writes back to a boy who, for her, simply doesn't exist. The Chamber of Secrets stays shut, its ancient horrors undisturbed beneath the school. No one ever suspects Harry, the alleged heir of Slytherin, because Harry isn't there. Voldemort's resurrection timetable, which in the original story was driven by desperate urgency, now shifts to meticulous, chilling precision. The Dark Lord needs a prophesied equal, a worthy adversary to cement his return to power. He searches for Harry Potter, uses his dark magic to scour the earth for any trace, and finds nothing. Ministry files, dusty and overlooked, still list Harry as missing presumed safe under blood wards, a bureaucratic shrug. Voldemort, ever the paranoiac, assumes Dumbledore is hiding the boy, playing a long game. He waits. He bides his time. He builds his forces, slowly, methodically, recruiting new followers, consolidating power in the shadows, growing stronger with every passing Harryless year. The calm before a storm is still calm, yes, but it's a deceptive, terrifying calm, until it isn't. Age 14. Harry, deprived of proper nourishment and growth spurts, still grows lanky, his limbs long and awkward, but strong from years of manual labor, and he is profoundly, deeply angry. His rage is a constant simmering heat beneath his skin. He sneaks out of Privet Drive in the pre-dawn hours, a silent shadow, to run laps in the local park. Dudley, now a hulking, aspiring boxer, is training for a scholarship, and Harry, in a strange, almost masochistic way, uses the opportunity to channel his own surging adrenaline, his own undirected energy. But the magic, the raw, untamed power, still leaks. It's always there, a part of him. One morning, the inevitable happens. Dudley and his gang, bored and cruel, corner Harry against a rusted chain link fence, their taunts sharp and vicious. Harry's anger, a white-hot spark, ignites. The fence, with a guttural groan of tortured metal, warps outward like a giant trampoline, throwing the gang backward. They scatter, terrified, convinced Harry has developed some monstrous strength. Dudley himself, unbalanced, topples onto the damp grass, his normally ruddy face pale with shock, his hair in a bizarre, instantaneous transformation, bleached stark white. Harry, still breathless, thinks it's just the adrenaline, a freak reaction. Dudley, utterly bewildered, thinks it's a stroke, a sudden, inexplicable illness. They never speak of it, the unspoken terror, a new, uncomfortable bond between them. But Harry, alone in the quiet aftermath, knows. He realizes with a chilling certainty that the world is bendable. It responds to him. He starts experimenting, tentatively at first, in the dusty, neglected garage. Broken glass, swept into a pile, shimmers. He focuses, a strange intensity in his eyes, and the shards float, dancing in the air like a macabre ballet. A small, involuntary laugh escapes him, a sound of pure, unadulterated wonder. Then the wonder curdles into a sob, a raw, primal expression of his loneliness and fear. He wipes his eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. And in that moment of despair, the shards, like shrapnel, fly with explosive force into the far wall, embedding themselves with a series of sharp, violent bangs. The Dursleys, startled by the noise, simply assume a car backfired down the street. They don't check. They never do. Harry doesn't sleep that night, his mind reeling, a terrifying power now fully acknowledged. Let's rewind for a moment and zoom in on a crucial detail, a gaping hole in the wizarding world's defenses. In canon, the Ministry of Magic places a magical trace on every underage wizard or witch's wand. This trace acts as a magical GPS, alerting the Ministry to any underage magic performed outside of school. But here's the critical difference. Harry doesn't have a wand. Without a wand, the trace doesn't activate. It's never even applied. The Accidental Magic Reversal Squad, those specialized teams dispatched to clean up magical messes in the Muggle world, never receives a single alert concerning Harry. Picture the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes. Stacks of yellowing memos teetering precariously on desks, the air thick with dust and the scent of old parchment. A bored, yawning clerk, perhaps Percy Weasley in a slightly different timeline, checks a flickering, enchanted map of London for magical spikes, for any unusual energy signatures. The cupboard under the Dursley stairs, the entire Privet Drive area, appears utterly blank, a normal, mundane patch of Muggledom. Harry is a ghost in the system, an unexplained blip in the magical fabric, but only if you're looking for him. And tragically, devastatingly, no one is. He is beneath their notice, and that oversight is growing more dangerous by the day. Age 15. The wizarding world, oblivious to the true nature of the threat growing within its own borders, edges closer to open, declared war. Sirius Black, in a surprising turn of events, is cleared by Dumbledore's persistent influence and political maneuvering after Peter Pettigrew, the true traitor, is finally captured. This happens through a complex series of events, perhaps a chance encounter or a desperate gambit by Dumbledore to prove Sirius's innocence, realizing the coming war needs all hands on deck. Yes, Professor Snape still brews Wolfsbane potion for Remus Lupin, a quiet, ongoing act of grim duty, but that's a story for another time, another video. The Department of Mysteries, that enigmatic, tightly guarded repository of arcane secrets, still holds a crucial prophecy. It begins, with chilling clarity, the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord, approaches. And it names a boy, born on July 31st. Dumbledore, connecting the dots, realizing his years of inaction have been a monumental error, understands with a jolt of ice-cold dread that he must bring Harry to the Order of the Phoenix. He sends Severus Snape, the reluctant, sneering courier, on this most vital and dangerous mission. Snape arrives at Privet Drive under the guise of a rather severe-looking muggle, knocking sharply on the door of number 4. Vernon Dursley, his face already purple with indignation at the stranger's presence, flatly refuses him entry. Petunia, catching a glimpse of Snape's dark, intense eyes and sensing something profoundly other about him, quickly pretends the Potter boy is off visiting an aunt in Surrey, a clumsy, transparent lie. Snape, however, doesn't need words. He senses it immediately. Magic, raw and volatile, crackling in the very walls of the house, a furious energy thrumming just beneath the surface of Muggle normalcy. This isn't the controlled, refined magic he knows. This is wild, untamed, dangerous. He slips silently into the back garden, a dark shadow in the fading light, and peers through the kitchen window. What he sees nearly makes him gasp, a rare flicker of emotion crossing his usually impassive face. Harry, now a tall, gaunt figure, levitates broken lawnmower parts, arranging them with a strange, almost artistic precision into the elegant, flowing initials of his parents, L and J, suspended mid-air, shimmering with raw power. This is not the pampered, arrogant celebrity child Snape detested. This is a feral wizard, starved of guidance, wandless and terrifyingly wild. Snape, against his better judgment, decides to approach Harry alone that night, hoping to avoid a scene. But Harry, startled by the sudden appearance of a dark, unfamiliar figure in the Dursleys' garden, panics. He thinks Snape is a stalker, another threat. A primal scream tears from his throat, and he lashes out with the only weapon he has, his uncontrolled magic. The cupboard door, still Harry's symbolic prison, slams shut by itself with a resounding thud. Snape's wand, caught in the unexpected magical blast, flies from his hand and embeds itself, quivering, in the ceiling of the shed. Harry, terrified and disoriented, escapes into the night, barefoot, wandless, and utterly alone, a desperate animal fleeing a trap. Snape, retrieving his wand with a snarl of annoyance, apparates instantly to the Order's secret headquarters, his mind racing. He delivers the chilling news to a stunned Dumbledore and the gathered Order members. Potter is alive. He is powerful. He is unstable. We must retrieve him before Voldemort finds him. He is a danger to us all, and himself, Dumbledore, his face etched with grim realization, convenes an emergency meeting. The stakes have just been raised beyond anything they could have imagined. The Order of the Phoenix, galvanized by Snape's urgent report, mounts a desperate search across Surrey. This isn't a gentle, discreet inquiry. It's a frantic, covert operation. Remus Lupin, his senses heightened, hears faint, almost imperceptible wolf whispers, the subtle echoes of untamed magic, the scent of fear and desperation that lead him down grimy alleyways, past overflowing dumpsters, and beneath dark, echoing underpasses. Nymphadora Tonks, with her incredible metamorphagus skills, effortlessly blends into the local youth scenes, transforming her appearance to match the style of runaway teenagers, listening for whispers of a strange, powerful boy. They find no direct leads, only unsettling rumors. Tales of a boy who can bend metal with a shout, who can make lights explode, who seems to appear and disappear like a phantom. The Muggle police dismiss these as gang activity or urban legends. Meanwhile, Voldemort's cunning spies, ever watchful, intercept Snape's frantic report. The Dark Lord, alerted to the surprising existence of his prophesied adversary, mobilizes his new recruits, a chilling assembly of freshly broken minds and eager, bloodthirsty followers: Dolohov, Rowell, Rookwood. They scour the very same back streets, hunting with a dark purpose. The Ministry of Magic, still stubbornly clinging to its denial, sees the rising tide of Muggle disturbances: bus shelters warped into grotesque sculptures, fountains flowing backwards with unnatural force, unexplained power outages, but attributes them with dismissive arrogance to a rogue gang of squibs, a marginalized group they barely acknowledge. They are blind to the true, escalating conflict. The race is on, a deadly, high-stakes game of hide-and-seek played across the unsuspecting Muggle world, with Harry Potter, a boy who doesn't even know he's being hunted, as the unwitting prize. Harry collapses behind a grimy pub in a forgotten corner of London, utterly exhausted, his bare feet bleeding, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He's been running for days, surviving on scraps, sleeping in doorways. He's scared, furious, and utterly alone. And then, with a deafening bang, the night bus appears, a towering, triple-decker, purple monstrosity. It's not a coincidence. It's called by Snape's lingering trace, a magical distress signal, a last resort. Stan Shunpike, half drunk and smelling faintly of cheap fire whiskey, stumbles out, his eyes wide with surprise. He grudgingly escorts the dirty, bewildered boy aboard. Inside, Harry's breath hitches. For the first time in his life, he sees moving photographs, wizards and witches winking from frames, their faces alive with impossible motion. He stares, wide-eyed, a fragile glimmer of hope sparking within him. He's not insane. This is real. He turns to the conductor, his voice a raw whisper. "Is this magic?" Stan laughs, a booming, unrestrained sound that sends pumpkin juice squirting from his nose. "You're a wizard, mate." Harry, his mind reeling, whispers the words back, testing them on his tongue. "I'm a what?" The bus, after a dizzying, stomach-lurching journey, roars to a halt. Not at the bustling, vibrant Diagon Alley he might have seen in a children's book, but at a shuttered, desolate street. Diagon Alley is half empty, many shops boarded up, their windows grimy. The war, the unseen conflict that has been simmering for years, has emptied its once bustling thoroughfare. Harry, disoriented and still reeling, wanders down a dark, narrow side street. He finds himself in Nocturne Alley, the air thick with the smell of decay and dark magic. It's here, in this shadowy, forbidden place, that a hooded figure emerges from the gloom. He offers Harry a wand, hawthorn, 10 inches, dragon heartstring. It's an old, powerful wand, one of Voldemort's own reserves, kept for special occasions. Harry touches it, and a jolt, a strange, dark recognition, surges through him. He hesitates, his mind screaming a warning. But survival, the desperate primal urge to protect himself, wins. He takes the wand. The hooded figure, stepping into a sliver of moonlight, reveals not a face, but a pair of chilling, crimson eyes, and a slow, malevolent smile. The trap is set, and Harry, innocent and vulnerable, has just walked right into it. Voldemort, ever the master manipulator, does not reveal his true identity. He introduces himself simply as Mr. Riddle, a benevolent, cultured figure who has taken an interest in Harry's unusual gifts. He offers Harry something he's never truly known: food, real, hot food, shelter from the biting cold, and most importantly, books, a library of forbidden knowledge, open just for him. He shows Harry a pensive memory, carefully extracted from Snape's old office, a precious stolen relic. It's a memory of his mother, Lily, her voice soft and loving, telling a young Harry, "You are part of something greater, my son. You have a destiny." Harry, starved for affection, for truth, for any connection to his past, listens, rapt. He clings to every word. Riddle, with a chillingly patient demeanor, begins to teach him. He starts with basic shield charms, simple defensive magic, building Harry's confidence. But then, slowly, subtly, he introduces darker spells. How to slice through ropes with a silent flick of the wrist. How to silence a scream before it can even form. How to instill fear with a mere thought. Harry's power, once wild and uncontrolled, now surges under Riddle's precise, ruthless guidance. He absorbs everything, a sponge desperate for knowledge, for control. He is no Death Eater, not yet, but he is certainly no hero. He is an unguided missile, yes, but now he has a powerful, insidious hand on the joystick, aiming him at whoever stands in his path, shaping him into a weapon for a war he barely understands. He is becoming a reflection of his mentor, a dark mirror to the boy he was meant to be. The Ministry of Magic, a grand golden edifice, hums with its usual bureaucratic activity. Dumbledore, his face grim, intercepts Harry at the visitor's entrance, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Come with me, Harry," he says gently, his voice soft but firm, reaching out with a hand that trembles slightly. Harry, seeing the old man, feeling the weight of years of neglect and betrayal, panics. He doesn't know who to trust, who to believe. His hand now instinctively rises, gripping the hawthorn wand. Wands clash, the air crackling with nascent magic. Dumbledore's magic, pure and radiant, is like sunlight, controlled and precise. Harry's, raw and untamed, is like barbed wire, lashing out with furious, uncontrolled power. The duel, a whirlwind of light and shadow, shatters the magnificent fountain in the atrium, sending gilded statues crashing to the marble floor. Aurors, alerted by the commotion, arrive, wands drawn, their faces a mixture of confusion and fear. And then, with a dramatic flourish, Voldemort appears in person, stepping out of the shadows, his crimson eyes gleaming with possessive pride. He is here to defend his new protege, his prized weapon. The two most powerful wizards of their age duel, a cataclysmic clash of light and dark, their spells tearing through the very fabric of the Ministry. Harry stands between them, his new wand raised, his mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions, unsure which side he is on, unsure who is truly good or evil. In the original timeline, Harry, without hesitation, chooses the light, chooses Dumbledore. Here, he hesitates. That single agonizing moment of indecision, that flicker of doubt, costs Alastor Mad-Eye Moody his life when a stray curse, meant for Dumbledore but deflected by Harry's accidental intervention, clips him squarely in the chest. Moody falls, his magical eye still spinning wildly, then still. Harry, horrified by the sudden, brutal death he inadvertently caused, screams. He disapparates into the night, a terrified, confused ghost. The prophecy orb, caught in the crossfire, lies shattered on the floor, its contents, the very words of destiny, lost to both sides, its secrets scattered like dust. The next morning, the wizarding world awakens to chaos. The Daily Prophet, its front page screaming headlines, brands Harry Potter a rogue weapon, a dangerous prodigy of Dumbledore gone terrifyingly wrong. He's painted as an unstable, destructive force, a threat to public safety. Voldemort, ever the opportunist, wastes no time. He publicly claims Harry as my heir apparent, a powerful new recruit, a symbol of his growing influence and power. The wizarding world, already fractured by the rising tensions of war, splits into three distinct warring camps. Those who desperately want to rescue Harry, believing him to be a victim. Those who, out of fear and desperation, want to kill him before he can do more damage. And those, the most dangerous of all, who want to use him, to harness his raw, untamed power for their own ends. Hogwarts students whisper in terrified tones about the lost Potter, the boy who might destroy them all. Their hero has become a villain, a terrifying enigma. But amidst the fear and confusion, a small spark of defiance ignites. Neville Longbottom, now braver and more self-assured, Hermione Granger, her intellect sharper than ever, and Ron Weasley, his loyalty unwavering, form a tiny clandestine underground resistance. Their mission, to find Harry first, to reach him before either side can claim him completely. They meet in the Room of Requirement, that magical space that appears only when truly needed, a silent testament to their desperate hope. The trio is born, yes, but not in the way we knew, not in the joyful, innocent camaraderie of school. This trio is forged in fear, desperation, and a grim determination to save a friend who may already be lost. Harry, a hunted animal, camps in the deepest, most forgotten forests, his only companion the Hawthorn wand, now a part of him. He sleeps under disillusionment charms, powerful spells he learned from Voldemort, spells he uses instinctively, a second nature, without even realizing the dark origin of his knowledge. He reads the borrowed Hawthorn wand's core, its dragon heartstring pulsing with a dark, primal energy, like a diary, sensing its owner's inherent cruelty, its thirst for power. He feels the echo of Voldemort's ambition, his ruthlessness, and a part of him, a desperate, vulnerable part, responds. He yearns to return to Privet Drive, to the familiar, if cruel, confines of his old life, to a place where he was at least known. But Snape, in a twisted act of protection, has placed a powerful, impenetrable ward around the Dursleys' estate, sealing Harry out, ironically ensuring his safety from Voldemort, but also severing Harry's last ties to his past. He is stateless, a refugee in his own world. The only place he feels a semblance of calm, a fragile peace, is in a quiet, unassuming Muggle library in Leeds, where no one looks up from their books, where no one recognizes the haunted, powerful young man. There, he devours physics books, fascinated by the elegant laws that govern the universe, theories that describe forces, equal and opposite reactions, the delicate balance of energy. He wonders, with a chilling clarity, if magic is simply the world's reaction to him, a chaotic force answering his own. He scribbles a profound thought on a crumpled napkin, a poignant reflection of his lost identity. If nothing holds me, I fall into orbit. He signs it not with his own name, but with a quiet, heartbreaking homage to his mother, J. Evans. Voldemort, ever calculating, sends a new teacher, a new instrument of his will. Dolores Umbridge, her sickly sweet smile belying a heart of pure venom, arrives, disguised under the alias Miss River. She finds Harry in the quiet Muggle library in Leeds, drawn by the lingering scent of his raw magic, a scent only she, with her particular brand of cruelty, can detect. She offers him a place at a new school, Durmstrang. She promises him discipline, a structured environment for his power, strength, and a clear purpose. Harry, weary of running, craving direction, agrees. The promise of control, of belonging, is a powerful lure. But the night before his scheduled departure, a chance encounter shifts the delicate balance once more. Harry, grabbing a quick, greasy meal, runs into Neville Longbottom at a bustling chip shop. Neville, now braver, more self-assured, and unburdened by Harry's fame, looks him squarely in the eye. He doesn't judge, doesn't fear. He simply says, his voice surprisingly firm, "You still have a choice, Harry. You always have a choice." Harry almost believes him. Almost. The words echo in his mind, a faint, persistent whisper against the roar of Voldemort's promises. At the bustling, fog-shrouded dock, the air thick with the scent of salt and diesel, Harry boards a ship bound for the unforgiving northern waters, a vessel that will take him to Durmstrang, to Voldemort's dark tutelage. He clutches the hawthorn wand, its familiar weight a grim comfort. Just as the ship's mournful horn bellows, signaling its imminent departure, he sees a lone figure waving frantically from the shore. It's Hermione Granger, her hair wild and disheveled, her face streaked with tears and determination. She clutches a battered copy of The Tales of Beetle the Bard to her chest, a symbol of their shared magical heritage, of the stories they never got to live together. She shouts, her voice raw with desperation, "You're not alone, Harry! You never were!" Harry's hand tightens on his wand, his knuckles white. He remembers Moody's lifeless, unseeing eye, the brutal consequence of his hesitation. He remembers Lily's laugh, stolen from Riddle's pensive, a fleeting glimpse of the love he was denied. He remembers Neville's quiet, powerful words, "You still have a choice." The ship groans, pulling away from the dock, the gap widening. He stands at the edge of the plank, torn between two worlds, two destinies. The open, dark sea with Voldemort's insidious whispers of power and control, or the solid, uncertain shore with people who, despite everything, still believe in him. He takes a deep, shuddering breath. Then, with a sudden, decisive movement, he steps off the plank, back onto the dock, his feet firmly planted on solid ground. The ship leaves without him, a dark silhouette disappearing into the mist. He walks slowly at first, then with increasing purpose, toward Hermione. The war, a very different war than anyone expected, truly begins. Harry joins the resistance, not as the prophesied hero, not as the boy who lived, but as a wizard forged in fire and neglect. He is still wild, still angry, but now he wields his power on his own terms for his own chosen people. He is a warrior who chooses compassion over cruelty, people over power. Voldemort, denied his ultimate weapon, his heir apparent, escalates his attacks with terrifying ferocity. The Ministry, already weakened by infighting and corruption, falls faster, its defenses crumbling under the Dark Lord's relentless assault. Hogwarts, once a beacon of hope and learning, closes its gates, its students scattered, its magic dimmed. The story ends, not with Harry's triumphant victory, but with a whisper echoing through the castle walls. Hope is still a choice, a fragile, hard-won belief in the darkest of times. And somewhere, in a quiet, forgotten corner of Privet Drive, in a cupboard under a staircase, a small, dusty plaque reads Harry's room, now empty, covered in years of dust and silence. The owl never came, but the boy, against all odds, against all expectations, stepped out anyway and chose his own path. If you're captivated by this darker, more nuanced world, if you want to see how Neville truly becomes the Resistance's secret weapon, or how Hermione and Ron navigate their complex relationship and survive without their famous friend, then drop a comment below and let us know. Smash that like button, give it a good whack, so the algorithm knows we absolutely need a part 2. And of course, subscribe for more wizarding what-ifs, more alternate realities every single week. Don't miss out. One missing letter. one seemingly insignificant oversight. That's all it took to rewrite an entire saga, to unravel the carefully woven tapestry of destiny. Without that simple piece of parchment, Harry isn't the chosen one. He's a lost child who had to find his own way, who had to choose himself, and then, against all the darkness, chose others. The wizarding world, in its arrogance and ignorance, learned the bitter cost of neglecting its most vulnerable, of assuming that fate would simply deliver its hero. And we, through this journey, learned a profound truth. Sometimes destiny isn't delivered by a majestic owl with a wax seal and a flourish. Sometimes you have to walk out and meet it yourself, confront it, and shape it with your own hands. So, the next time you see a letter arrive, especially one that seems to hold extraordinary news, maybe check the address twice. You never know whose life it might save, or whose entire world it might change.